Now we're going to talk about using transitions and talking about time when the time is not a specific time. The keywords that we'll be using are 的时候, which literally means time, or the time belonging to whatever came before it, because that 的, as you remember, is a possessive particle. In practice, 的时候 means when, but only in a statement when you're telling someone when something happened, not in a question. Second keyword is 以后, after. And the third keyword is 以前, before. Before we start talking about how to use these words in Chinese, let's first think about how we express time when in English. In these sentences, which part is the part that means time when? The first sentence, I will go home after school. Which part do you think expresses time when? After school is the when. I will go home is what's going to happen. When my mom calls, tell her I'm not here. Which part is time when? When my mom calls is the time when in this sentence. I like to listen to music when I do my homework. Which part is time when? When I do my homework. That's the time that expresses when I like to listen to music, which is the main information conveyed by this sentence, what it is that I like to do. After I have breakfast, I go to school. Which part expresses time when? After I have breakfast tells us when. I go to school tells us what. Will you call me before you come? Which part is time when? Before you come tells us when. I'm hoping that you will call me. Notice that these time when expressions are in different places in the sentence in English. Some of them are at the end, some of them are at the beginning. These are what we call relative time expressions, because what they're telling us is when something happened, but it's when something happened as expressed relative to what else is happening. So when my mom calls, that's something that happens, but in the sentence, in that second sentence, it's telling us when you're supposed to tell her that I'm not here. So you remember that the rules for time when in Chinese, most importantly, are time when expressions have to go before the verb. That's true if it's a specific time, like 3点钟, 11月, or 今年. It is also true when it's a relative time, so verb object 的时候, verb object 以前, or verb object 以后. The other thing that's tricky about using relative time when expressions in Chinese is that they are backwards from English word order. In English, we would say after the subject verb object. But in Chinese, we have to say subject verb object 以后. The subject verb object goes first. The word after goes after that subject verb object that it refers to. Same thing with before. In English, we say before subject verb object, like before you called. In Chinese, we have to say subject verb object and then the word for before. For example, 你打电话以前. Same thing is true of when we're using it as a time when, not as a question. If we want to say when the subject verb's the object, we would say subject verb object 的时候. And again, that's because the 的时候 is like a possessive time, a possessive with a time. So the time that belongs to the subject verb object. This can be a little bit confusing because that time when expression, that relative time when expression, contains a verb. So the rule that time when has to go before the verb is a little bit bent in this case because the first verb object is actually part of the time when. So that subject verb object, which is part of the time when, goes in the beginning of the sentence, and the main action, the main information being conveyed by the sentence, goes after that relative time expression. For example, if we want to say before subject verb object, something happened, we would say 他来以前我吃饭. Before he came, I ate. Before he came is the time when. I ate is the main thing that happened. If we want to say when the subject verb object something happens, we say subject verb object 的时候 the thing happens. For example, 他来的时候我吃饭. When he came, I was eating. Or when he comes, I will eat. Unclear what the tense is in this sentence. After subject verb object is subject verb object 以后. For example, 他来以后我就吃饭. After he came, I ate. The 就 in this example conveys immediacy. So right after he came, that's when I ate. That 就, it's like it was just then, it was right then, and it's sort of right after. If we want to ask the question, when did something happen, we use the expression 什么时候, which, as you know, literally means what time. So if the answer is 他来以前我吃饭, the question would be 你什么时候吃饭? When did you eat? I ate before he came. If the answer is 做功课以后我去看电影, the question would be 你什么时候去看电影? When will you go see a movie? After I do my homework, I will go see a movie. One more thing to call your attention to before we move on to some examples. Notice that in all three of these sentences, there are two I's. When I study, I like to listen to music. Before I go to school, I take a shower. After I traveled to China, I spoke Chinese really well. In Chinese, however, we do not say 我 twice in a sentence that contains relative time words. Most often, we'll put the 我 in the beginning of the sentence that contains the main information, as in these examples. 学习的时候，我喜欢听音乐. When I study, I like to listen to music. However, it would not be incorrect to put the 我 before 学习. 我学习的时候，喜欢听音乐. The only thing that is incorrect is putting the 我 in twice. Before I go to school, I take a shower. 去学校以前，我洗澡. After I traveled to China, I spoke Chinese really well. 去了中国以后，我说中文说得很好. Now, let's take an example of a day that contains lots of different activities. 起床, 洗澡, 吃早饭, 去学校, 上课, 吃午饭, 上中文课, 回家, 玩电脑, 做功课, 吃晚饭, 看电视睡觉 I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to answer the question with a relative time when expression. For example, if I say, 你什么时候洗澡? You will say, 起床以后我洗澡. Or you could say, 吃早饭以前我洗澡. Please say your answers, but also write them down on the paper that you will turn into 老师. Question number 1. 你什么时候去学校? Question number 2. 你什么时候上中文课? Question number 3. 你什么时候吃早饭? Question number 4. 你什么时候做功课? Question number 5. 你什么时候回家? Question number 6. 你什么时候睡觉? Question number 7. 你什么时候吃晚饭? Question number 8. 你什么时候玩电脑? Question number 9. 你什么时候洗澡? Question number 10. 你什么时候睡觉? Now translate these 4 sentences into Chinese. Write your answers on the paper that you will turn into 老师. Now, compare your answers to the correct answers. If you need to make corrections, go ahead and do that, but do it in a different color. When I study, I like to listen to music. 学习的时候，我喜欢听音乐. If you put the 我 before 学习, that's okay, as long as you did not put it before the 喜欢. Before I go to school, I take a shower. 去学校以前，我洗澡. Again, if you put the 我 before 去学校, that's okay, as long as it does not appear again before the 洗澡. After I went to China, I spoke Chinese really well. 去中国以后，我说中文说得很好. Did you remember that well is an adverb? So you have to use the svavd pattern to create that adverbial description of how you spoke. When are you going to review your Chinese characters? 你什么时候要复习你的汉字? Good work. Now, turn your paper in to 老师.